Welcome. So, you've got a big final exam on supply chain network design coming up. Well, you're in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to build up your knowledge piece by piece and really get you thinking like a supply chain architect. The goal? To help you design the perfect answers and absolutely ace that test.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Before we can even think about designing something, we have to get our heads around the big picture. I mean, have you ever really thought about your morning coffee? That journey it took just to get to you? From a farm, maybe halfway across the world, to a roaster, a packer, a shipper, a store, and then finally into your cup? It's this huge, incredibly connected journey.
And here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the basics, the blueprint. Then we'll get into the master plan, look at the professional tools you'll need, figure out how to handle risks, and wrap up by looking at the future. Think of this as a walkthrough of the core topics you are definitely going to see on that exam.
First up, Section 1, the blueprint. We have to lay the foundation. So, what is a supply network, really? Getting this definition down is pretty much step one for any solid exam answer.
Okay, so here's the crucial point. A network is so much more than a simple straight line, right? The key words you want to remember are interconnected and exchange. It's this dynamic web where information flows both ways, not just materials. So yeah, think less like a chain and more like a spider's web.
And this is where things get really interesting from a design perspective. At its core, you've got that two-way flow of goods and information we just talked about. But as the architect, you have to juggle a whole bunch of other factors just to decide where to put a single facility. You're thinking about local demand, transport costs, even things like political stability. Every single one is a variable in your master plan.
Now, to talk about this flow like a pro, you need two key terms, upstream and downstream. It's simple, really. Upstream is everything coming into your organization. Think raw coffee beans arriving at a roaster. Downstream is everything going out to the customer, that finished cup of coffee being handed over the counter. Nailing this distinction is absolutely fundamental.
All right, let's move on to the master plan. This is where we take those foundational ideas and start making the big strategic decisions. This is where you, the architect, start sketching out the designs for a supply chain that's not just effective, but efficient too.
The classic trade-off. This is the kind of problem you'll be solving all the time. Do you spend a ton of money on new buildings to get closer to your customers, or do you spend it on fancy logistics to make your current system faster? When you get that exam question asking you to design a plan for your own organization, you'll be making these exact kinds of calls, constantly balancing cost against customer service.
This visualizes that trade-off perfectly. Let's just look at one of these graphs. See how as you add more facilities, your response time plummets? That's great for the customer. But look at your facility and inventory costs. They're shooting up. The whole game is to find that sweet spot, that lowest point on the total logistics cost curve. That's where you found the perfect balance of cost and speed.
Okay, listen up, because this is pure gold for your exam, especially for a big question like, design a supply chain flow for your organization. This 5-step framework, this is your answer structure. You start high level with your company's goals, and then you drill all the way down to the nitty-gritty of tracking flows and managing risks. It's a perfect, logical flow from strategy to execution. Examiners love this stuff.
So now that we have a process, let's open up the professional toolkit. I'm talking about the models and frameworks that real supply chain architects use every day to figure things out and make smart decisions. Knowing these is what's going to make your exam answers really shine. This matrix is a fantastic tool. Think of it as a way to diagnose what kind of network you need based on your environment. So you have to ask, is my market stable and predictable, or is it totally volatile and chaotic? And am I focused on cheap, simple transactions, or do I need deep collaboration with my partners? Your answers will put you into one of these 4 boxes. And here's a quick cheat sheet for those 4 network types, perfect for a bit of last-minute revision. You've got your hollow network, like eBay, which outsources pretty much everything. Then there's the flexible network, like car makers, who need tons of collaboration to handle constant change. IKEA is a textbook value-added network. It's all about low cost. And then you have virtual networks, like when NASA and Google team up for some crazy complex project. Now, if there is one single model that you absolutely positively have to know, it is this one, the SCOR model. It is the global industry standard language for describing, measuring, and improving any supply chain you can think of. When that assignment asks you to analyze the supply chain flow of your organization, this is the professional framework you want to use, period. The whole thing is built on these 6 core processes: Plan, source, make, deliver, return, and enable. See? It covers the entire life cycle, from planning and getting raw materials to building the product, getting it to the customer, handling returns, and all the background processes that make it happen. It's the complete end-to-end picture.
Any good architect knows that even the strongest building can face an earthquake or a hurricane. It's the same for us. So in this section, let's talk about how we fortify our supply chain against the shocks and disruptions that are, let's be honest, inevitable.
This iceberg image is just a perfect analogy for supply chain risk. The stuff you see, like a late shipment, that's just the tip. The really big dangers, the things that can sink you, a key supplier going bankrupt, a natural disaster, a massive cyber attack, all that stuff is lurking right below the surface, hidden from view until it's way too late.
So, how in the world do you manage these risks? Well, you start by mapping them out. A risk matrix like this is an essential tool. You take each risk and you plot it based on how likely it is to happen and how bad it'll be if it does. It instantly tells you what to worry about first, all that stuff in the top right red zone. Okay, so once you've sized up your risk, you've basically got 4 choices. We call them the 4 T's. For minor risks, you just tolerate them. For the big ones, you treat them with a mitigation plan. Some risks you can transfer to someone else, like through insurance. And finally, if a risk is just too big and scary, you terminate the activity. This is a super useful framework, especially when you need to justify how your network plan is going to handle problems.
And for our final section, we're looking ahead. A great architect doesn't just build for today, right? They design structures that can adapt and thrive no matter what tomorrow throws at them. So let's quickly see how supply chains are trying to future-proof themselves.
2 major strategies you'll hear about are integration. First, there's vertical integration. That's when a company buys its suppliers to get more control. Imagine Ford buying a tire company. Then there's horizontal integration, which is when you buy a competitor to grab more market share, like one airline merging with another.
And of course, technology is supercharging all of this. I mean, decades ago, companies had these pretty basic MRP systems just for planning materials. But today we have massive ERP systems that connect every single part of the business, finance, HR, manufacturing, sales, all into one central nervous system. It gives you a complete view of the entire operation.
And that brings us to the final thought. To really succeed, you have to think like an architect. So let's recap the key takeaways. Start with that 5-step design process. Use the SCOR model to analyze your flows. And always plan for risk with the 4 T's. If you can take those core tools and apply them to an organization you know well, you'll be more than ready for any design question they throw at you. Good luck.